Hello and welcome to MS-4004. My name is Lockie and I'm here to take you through how Copilot can help you in your workday. Now before we begin, a little bit about myself. I'm based in Canberra in Australia and I am a Microsoft technical trainer. I help clients in high compliance scenarios get skilled up in a whole range of different areas, but my specialty is in multi-cloud and also hybrid cloud. That means I've done a lot of work with clients with documents all over the place. And using Copilot as an impetus to kind of bring things together and make the best use of all of the document libraries you have, the databases you build, it's kind of been my modus operandi the last few years here. So, what am I here to take you through? Well, with the lens of high compliance, I do a lot of work about how Copilot actually works under the hood. It's important to understand what it's doing. And my goal is for you to have a good understanding of how it actually works, not how we say it works or how it's said it works in the sales material, how you can actively use it in your workday, and how it works best for you in your specific scenario. So, without further ado, let's begin and start talking Copilot. Now, specifically, we are here today to talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot. There are many Copilots in the Microsoft ecosystem, and Microsoft 365 Copilot is the one that is designed to work with all of the components of Microsoft 365 and Office 365 more broadly. So I think before we begin, it's good to get a little bit of a level set. Let's talk about what it is, what it isn't, and what it's being built upon. So, Copilot for Microsoft 365 is the main child of what we're going to be talking about today. It's the main topic of our course and the main thing that we are focused on. But there are many Copilots, as I said. The Copilot for Word works differently to the Copilot for Excel, the Copilot for Outlook, Teams, Loop, and the rest of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem broadly. Each individual Copilot has its own set of special skills and is designed to work in a specific way. We call these two different types of experiences either standalone or embedded. The standalone experience for Copilot for Microsoft 365 is what you'll get at office.com or over in the Copilot app on your machine. Additionally, Teams actually makes use of the standalone version of the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, and it uses this to be able to reach out to Teams messages, look at calendar invites, and be able to bring in broader context about how Office works on the day-to-day. When we use an embedded experience, we use those in-app. And many of my demonstrations are going to focus on that in-app experience. This is where we focus in on some specific skill set. When we use Copilot in Excel, it's great at coming up with new formulas. When we use it in Outlook, it's designed for drafting emails and being able to coach us into, well, writing the right thing. When we're using it in Word, it's about recreating a document, redrafting, coming up with new suggestions, and looking for new improvements within that behavior. Each Copilot has a specific set of skills, and we look to utilize those whenever we can. But I keep using this word Copilot, and I think it's nice to just have a little bit of a background about what a Copilot actually is. Like, what is Copilot for Microsoft 365? We know what it's going to do for us, and I'll give plenty of demonstrations about how it's going to work for you. But under the hood, it's really three separate components. The first is an LLM, or a large language model. There are many different companies out there coming up with large language models. LLMs are designed to reach out to large data sets of information and be able to find patterns in how human language is written, and a little bit of how human language is spoken as well. We use this to be able to find easy, predictable pathways. So when we say, I have a pet, what's the next word? It could be dog, it could be cat, it could be bird, but there is a pathway that we can follow, and we know what the most likely response is going to be based on the data that we originally feed in. Now, critically, LLMs are packaged and static. Your information is not used to retrain or improve an LLM. These are things that we utilize and that we update over time, but these are generally provided by an external company. Whilst we as Microsoft do make various large language models and small language models ourselves, our research team is very skilled in that area. OpenAI is the main basis for many of the different packages that we use in the LLM space. Now, away from the technical jargon, what are we adding in when you go for a Copilot? The first thing is the protections and guardrails that you come to expect with a Microsoft system. These are things that do evolve and improve over time. We use this to ensure that when you use a Copilot, it responds in an appropriate manner. It behaves in a way that makes sense for an enterprise. You want something that you're going to use at work to feel like a tool you should be using at work. So we leverage the different pieces of our ecosystem, the different APIs we already have access to, and the great skill we already have in terms of filtering language, in terms of making sure that it is fair and responsible in its responses, and ensuring that it is grounded in a level of reality and accuracy. And the last critical piece, the thing that makes Copilot for Microsoft 365 something different, is the graph. Now, what the graph is a reach out API where we can hit an endpoint, a point in your environment that says, what's on your calendar? What's in your Outlook? What's on Teams? This is the thing that allows us to feed in all of the baseline components of the LLM, packaged with those protections, and then we add on the content you provide from your Microsoft 365 environment. So, baseline package wrapped with all the protections and guardrails you need to be enterprise ready, and then you bring the content, the thing that makes it personalized to you specifically. That is what a Copilot is, and that is what Copilot for Microsoft 365 is when you actually use it on the day-to-day. The Copilot system is designed to be able to give you a simple, trusted place to be able to do your work. We use these LLMs in combination with the graph in order to give you that proper, seamless integration across that Office 365 suite. And additionally, you can expect that there is going to be contextually aware responses. So that is the baseline of what Microsoft 365 Copilot is and what it's going to provide for you. There is a critical thing that you do need to know about this work version of Copilot. It is license-based. So you do need to ensure that you have the correct license in your environment and that it has been enabled in your environment today. Copilot is not on by default. It is something that an organization needs to enable. Of course, right now, for non-work use, you have access to a Copilot. Over on Bing, there is a Copilot available for general use and for great web queries. But it's not designed with enterprise protections in mind. It's designed for general search terms and general use cases. If you are looking to integrate with Microsoft 365, pulling your emails and all of the things you expect out of a work environment, that's where we're going to require a license. So if you don't have access to it today, there's a couple of things that need to happen in the back end there, and that might be why. Now, let's talk about what Microsoft 365 Copilot does for you specifically. The three things you see on here: understanding context and user need, transforming how you work, and giving yourself a whole bunch of key capabilities. These effectively show what a base Copilot is able to normally do. The understanding of context, that's based on the graph. The more we can pull in from there, the better we are able to work with the data you provide. Transform how you work, large language models, and the secondary piece of that, a natural language processor, means that we can take the questions you ask, run them through an algorithm, and then the LLM can process them and give an output that feels right. It feels like you're talking to someone, like you have an assistant or a Copilot on the side. And of course, the last thing is that baseline LLMs have many key capabilities that we are leveraging. The ability to rewrite, to analyze, to find different components, whilst also ensuring that you are, well, secure. You have access to the things you should have access to and no more. It's critical to ensure that we're managing all three of those pieces. This right here is the logical architecture of how a Copilot actually fits together. And I like to leave this one in just as a way of giving you one last set of how the graph actually functions. Just remember that a Copilot alone, the thing that we see at this point, that Microsoft 365 Copilot out of the box, it does great work, but doesn't know you. The graph, the thing that means that if it is something you can't see, Copilot can't see it. If it's something that you are able to pull, Copilot can pull it. We use your permissions. So if Copilot can see it, you can see it. That is a really important part of how we have designed this. It should work out of the box with all of the various permissions you already expect. So always keep that in mind. Now, there's one last piece of this that I haven't actually defined properly yet. We talked about LLMs already, those pre-packaged components, and we've talked about Microsoft 365 apps. But I only really quickly went through what a natural language processing component is. One of the key things to remember with large language models, the thing that Copilot's based on, is that they don't really understand anything. It'll feel like it. They're extremely good at being able to predict what they need to say next to be accurate and say the right thing. But natural language processing is the actual thing that allows you to talk to a Copilot. It takes your language that you speak. English is the easiest example that I can think of for what we tend to talk about here. I have a dog. That will get translated into 1, 2, 3, 4, a series of numbers that represent the words we're saying. Then all we need within the large language model is to find the pattern of those numbers within it. And then at the end, we need to then run it in reverse. We need to take the output of numbers we have and be able to feed them back into normal language. It's the 1-2, going from things you say in the way you like to say them, bringing them down, running them through an algorithm, and then outputting them back out. When you look at what it's actually doing under the hood, you'll be astonished at just how good Copilot is at being able to pick up what you need and how you need to access that info. Always remember, because of the way that the graph works, it is always based on a compliance-first opinion. If you cannot see it, Copilot cannot see it either. I know I've emphasized that already, but it's super important to say. What this does mean is that if you find that Copilot can see something that's unexpected, let your organization know. It means that you've been able to see it this whole time, and we need to get that fixed. This is an important piece of Copilot. It reaches out to all of the graph that is available. So if it is able to return something, you've always been able to see it there. Let people know if you ever see something that's not right. The last big piece I want to emphasize here, before I just show you a little bit of Copilot, is I want to talk to our responsible AI. Microsoft has, for a very long time, had a key set of responsible AI principles, and we adhere to them at all times. Responsible AI principles and practices around compliance with various government organizations and government bodies, making sure that we are using this in a way that makes sense and ensuring that you have access to the tools in a safe manner. This is our core goal. The AI tools that we have should be trustworthy. That is a key component of it. And we want to make sure that you are able to feel that these tools are trustworthy, that you can use them in the way that you expect and you can trust their output. Additionally, you should be able to be empowered to use these AI tools responsibly. We make sure that there are guardrails in place so you can use them and fall into the right space to ensure privacy and security is paramount. So always keep this in mind. We have responsible AI principles. We use this to define how these AI tools are actually designed. And we recommend that you follow those principles too. Feel free to take a look at the responsible AI principles over on learn.microsoft.com. We publish them out publicly and we're proud of them. All right, next we're going to go across and we're going to take a look at how Copilot works. And I'm going to show you just a few quick tours of some simple prompts that we can run to see how things work in our environment. Okay, so welcome to Copilot. This is available over at office.com, but as I mentioned, there's many different ways you can reach Microsoft 365 Copilot. Here on my main screen, I am currently in work mode. At the top of the screen, you'll see work and web. Work means that we are in your enterprise environment. We're going to use internal documentation and things that you have access to in your SharePoints, OneDrives, and also in any Teams, Outlook messages, etc. Straight away, we can see easy examples of some potential prompts that we can use for Copilot, such as, I've got a daily stand-up. Maybe I need some help preparing for that. Gabriel Woods has been contacting me. What about the latest messages from them? These are far from the only prompts that you are able to do with Copilot. The world's your oyster. Use your imagination and think about the ways that Copilot can work with you. It's using a natural language processing system, which means talk to it in a natural way. Use slang, use terms, but always be nice. Just like a person, Copilot responds better when you are kind to it and when you do say please and thank you. I know, but it does make a big difference. On this screen, there's a couple of important things that we need to know. First, the shield up the top. Anytime you see this shield, you know that your enterprise data is going to be protected. But the way this reflects is slightly different depending on what we're looking at. In the work mode, it means we're going to bring in your enterprise data. In the web mode, it means we're going to exclude it. So you've always got a guarantee that when you're using Copilot at work, whether you are using the web mode for general public chat or using the work mode for internal documentation, as well as potentially content from the web, we're able to make sure that your data is protected. You will see my little chat history coming on there as well. The chat history is always available in a little panel window on the right-hand side. Additionally, in the three dots at the top here, you'll see there's a little web content button. Sometimes it's good to flick that web content off, and so we don't pull in things from the web and we keep things purely internal. It's your call, but it's a nice little thing to work with. Now, what we're going to do is just a pretty simple prompt here. I have a daily stand-up coming. It's pulled in my calendar invite and it's got some information. Help me prepare for the project widget daily stand-up. Copilot is now running that prompt live. It gives me details about what's actually going in. We've got some additional components from external sources. This has pulled in some emails from my inbox there. It's also got the details in the agenda from the meeting itself and even who organized it. This sort of quick overview is perfect for what Copilot is great for. We see references to each of the things that it needs to reach out to. So if you need to pull in some extra data or get some extra context, you've got it straight away. And you've even got some follow-ups here. Drafting my update will give me a little bit of summary context on those extra emails. It's very easy and it's designed to be simple to pull in extra information from these other sources. So think about how you can use Copilot in your day. Now, this is the standalone experience. Beyond this, there is, of course, all of those embedded experiences. A quick tour of some of them. This is the embedded experience in Word. You have the ability to draft new documents with Copilot, as well as using it as a rewriting and coaching tool. Either way works well for us. Whatever works well for you is the way to use it. Within Word, there is also the side panel. And the side panel is great for asking general questions. If you need to ask a question about other documents, to pull some components in, or even link in external files, that's where you're able to do that and be able to create new content from other sources. In Outlook, there's two primary skills that we've worked with. The ability to summarize email threads, number one, very important. When I get a lot of emails overnight, I want to know what's actually going on and why I got so many. A quick summary of a thread can help you get up to speed fast and works brilliantly every time. The drafting of emails, It's a longer kind of process there. Maybe you want to change the tone. Maybe you've got the core points that you want to say, but you need to find a way to put it all together, get the context right. You can use the drafting capabilities to find that right wording, change the length, change the tone, even make it into a poem if you want to. If you're using Teams, two main ways we can use it. The Microsoft 365 chat is available, so you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot's full feature set, reaching out to multiple sources and getting context. Or you can keep it contained to a single chat thread. Both are useful in different ways. The chat thread feature is great if you're trying to work out what that action item needs to be from a long set of history, or with lots of back and forth in an asynchronous world, just what actually matters to me. What do I need to be doing here? This is far from the full set, but always remember that work web switch. If at any time you want to remove the work context and only pull from the web, ask general questions. What is an LLM? How does this work? Tell me about this animal. The sort of things that the kiddos like to look up as well. Always use that web mode. The web mode also has a nice little feature on the side, the ability to go through and change the conversation style. Different conversation styles give you different responses. A creative response is going to go far off the beaten path, whereas a precise response is going to focus on the facts and figures. Take your pick. Within the Copilot for Microsoft 365, we focus more on the precise above all else. Accuracy is key when in an enterprise environment, so that's the key focus for us. Now, the big thing to remember is that Copilot and Copilot for Microsoft 365, it doesn't end with just the Copilot chat itself. AI itself and working with AI tools, it's both art and science together. Yes, there is definitely a lot of creativity and you have full freedom to use these tools however fits you. Truly, I want you to experiment and iterate. That is how you get better at these tools, and the better you get at using the tools, the better the responses. The better the responses, the better you're going to use them, and so on and so forth. It's a positive feedback loop, and it's brilliant. AI is designed to not give the same answer twice. Well, sometimes it can, but it follows whatever path makes the most sense based on what you've said. Change up your wording. Sometimes AI is what's known as usefully wrong. I know, but if you're looking for a creative thing or trying to come up with ideas, it's going to try and look for different pathways to follow each time. This means that we get different prompts, different thoughts, different ways of drafting or other areas to improve every time we ask. Use your different AI skill sets and use this as an experimentation. Don't treat it as a one and done, always the same. Use it as a conversational tool and a conversational partner to experiment and to test ideas with. Now, there is a number of clear best practices. You don't have to follow these, but following them will get you a better response, guaranteed, with any large language model. So of course, well applies to Microsoft 365 Copilot. First, be clear and be concise. Don't waffle on if you can avoid it. Try and keep your wording clear, try and keep it short, but don't leave things out. Always ensure that you are providing feedback if things are wrong. Ensure you add extra context if it's needed. Just try and keep it to whatever the minimum would be. Just like us, Copilot works best when it's a short phrase or short emails. But also like us, it needs all the context there. So make sure you provide it all together. The next and important thing is that you should trust what Copilot says, but at all times, verify. AI and large language model tools, they have great pattern matching skills and are extremely accurate. But there is a reason we have the disclosure that AI tools are sometimes incorrect. It's pattern matching. It's not a human with the understanding there. And just like someone who doesn't have all the context or maybe doesn't know the whole scenario where you're rubber ducking a question off, we want to ensure that we're checking their work. Make sure you check the responses from Copilot for accuracy, especially when you're dealing with very specific numbers. Additionally, Copilot's not actually designed as a replacement tool, so don't use it for everything. It's not skilled in every area, and it's not supposed to be. It's got specific skill sets to help supplement your workday and make you better at what you do. It's an extension, not a replacement, so don't over-rely on it. Also, make sure that you just are creative with it. Do fun stuff, test things out, push the limits. Copilot is a tool that lets you unlock your creativity. And that is sometimes in the most menial of forms, but using it to extend out words that you find to struggle to get on a page, or just finding the right way to say that message. It's always a different way of using it, but focus in on being creative with it and using it in the way that makes you feel good. And the last two are important for us. Stay updated. We're always improving Copilot and adding in new protections and new skills, and ensure that you're prioritizing privacy and security. Those go hand in hand. New skills lead to new ways of using Copilot. New ways of using Copilot lead to new areas that you might not expect. So always be understanding and be cautious when you're working with sensitive data. Copilot will work with your sensitivity labels and all of the things we expect, but you still need to be careful and still need to be cautious. So always be thinking at the forefront, how am I prioritizing privacy and security while still getting the most out of the tool? Now, when you are building a prompt, what you are looking at here is the most effective way that you can write a prompt. Again, you don't have to follow it, but a best practice gets you best results. Always give Copilot a goal. In this case, I want 3 to 5 bullet points. Context, it's for an upcoming meeting with a client. That's going to change language, tone. It's going to change a lot about what we are responding. Give the expectations, a tone that is friendly but authoritative. That's important. We're changing how Copilot's going to say things, and that's going to change a lot about the different ways we put it together. And of course, your source. If you only want Teams messages, if you only want emails, only provide those. This goes for all different types of prompts as well. As much as the examples here are focused on Teams and email messages, if you are drafting a document, you're thinking about summarization, you're creating a presentation, whatever it is, think about the ways in which you can effectively prompt your environment. We have some great guidance on effective prompts over on learn.microsoft.com. So if you're looking for more information or deeper dives into what makes an effective prompt, go check it out. Last of all, in the best practices, there are also a few simple don'ts. Always be clear and concise. Don't be vague. When you're vague, Copilot will respond in unpredictable ways, just like a person would actually. If you don't give them the details, they're not going to quite know what to say. So they might do something that's unpredictable. Focus on if-then conditionals. If it doesn't work here, go do that. If you don't find this, go do this instead. Get creative. Use analogies. I use slang all the time, and it works great. If you can't quite find the word, use the one you've got at hand. Think about it and just talk to it in the way that makes most sense for you. One that's a really nice hidden feature of the way that LLMs work, great at role-playing. If you need to put it in the shoes of a client or put it in the shoes of a manager, tell it it's a manager. That's its job now. And it will go through and it will play that part. It can be really good for testing out stressful scenarios or really just trying to work out what sort of questions someone might ask in the room. And the last important one, you don't have to put it all in one prompt. It can be a conversation. We call them chats. And this chat back and forth can be a series of different prompts. Each chat is a totally new context. So bring in the information you need and then ask for the details of it all together. Summarize the context, summarize the content, and bring all the parts in before you go through and do that. Last of all, you know that Copilot's not going to be good at everything because it's not supposed to be. It is a skilled tool. It's a scalpel, not a hammer. If you have a repetitive task, that is great for it. If you've got clear tasks with repeatable pieces, that is what it is good at. If it's something that's ambiguous and requires interpretation and is hard to work out, that's something that Copilot can assist with, but it needs you to make that last bit of the difference there. Be clear, Say please, be polite, be curious and ask preliminary questions, and iterate. Iterate, iterate, iterate. This is the most important part of getting good at using Copilot. So provide feedback to it. Say, that's not what I was expecting. I want it more like this. Give it samples. Give different pieces of information. Do what you can to try and find the right sort of response. Beyond this as well, if there's something else you need to bring into Copilot, your organization can actually extend it into external tools. We support a whole range of ERP and CRM applications to be able to pull in document stores, wikis, blogs, you name it. If it can integrate with the graph already, we can integrate it with Copilot. So if you're looking for a way to extend this out, there's many different options you have available. All right, now that we've gone through the basics, I think it's time to work out what Copilot can do for you. Let's dive in, and I'm going to show you some options on how Copilot works for your specific environment. For legal professionals, precision, clarity, and compliance aren't just important, they're essential. Whether you're drafting contracts, reviewing case materials, or advising on regulatory matters, Microsoft 365 Copilot is here to help you work faster without compromising accuracy. From generating those first drafts in Word to tracking case timelines in Excel, collaborating in Teams, or preparing briefs in PowerPoint, Copilot is embedded across the Microsoft 365 suite to support your legal workflows. It helps reduce time spent on repetitive tasks and organize complex information while still maintaining a high standard of quality and compliance. I've pulled together some practical use cases to help you hit the ground running and unlock the full potential of Microsoft 365 Copilot in your legal work. Let's jump straight in. Okay, let's begin. First of all, we're going to head over to Word and we're going to grab ourselves a fresh blank document. Now, the reason we're doing this is because I want to actually take in some attached contracts, pull them through and get some summarizations. And for me, Word is a great place to be able to do that work. At the top of the screen, we see that Copilot's already ready to go. There is in fact 4 prompts right and ready, but let's do something customized. What we're going to do is we're going to ask Copilot to summarize the contract in 5 bullet points. Now we can keep it nice and simple, or we can be very specific with what we want included. So in this case, termination, payment terms, there's a few different pieces of the puzzle that I desperately need to be included in this summary. Now there is some wording that I'm using at the end here. Create a clear, concise summary that can be quickly reviewed by internal stakeholders. This is important because internal stakeholders could be of any type. Later, we are going to use Copilot to rephrase legalese and some jargon into other components. But for now, I want it to be as clear, precise, and accurate as possible, using wording from the contract itself to be able to surface insights as fast as we can. First of all, let's attach. Jump in here. I know that our supplier is called Van Arsdale, so we will search for Van Arsdale's supplier agreement. If we don't find it initially, that's okay. You can always upload directly from OneDrive or SharePoint by hitting the upload button. Now, we have asked for 5 dot points, so we are going to get something that is quite tight in its return here. All right, first pass is looking pretty good. Term and termination, payment terms, liability, and then an additional spot on governing law have been included as part of the initial summary here. Now, this is a good first pass, but it's not telling us where there's potentially going to be problems with the contract itself. Certainly, we can go through, and we should go through and look at the contract in detail, but maybe we just need a bit of help working out where to start. So let's ask the question. Are there any unusual clauses or red flags that we can focus in on? I'm going to stick to just the indemnity and termination portion of the contract. This is the most relevant to my position, so let's ask that question there. Now, you've got a couple of options in terms of being able to draft this content, and I am going through and saying, please return the entire document and not just the updated sections. This is your call. Copilot will usually pick this up, but the more specific you are with what you ask, the more specific Copilot will be with its returned components. Okay, it has done what I asked, but it's extended it out well beyond the 5 dot points I originally asked for. It just needed a place to put that content. So I'm going to ask it to split the concepts into multiple sections. If we can't find an easy way to weave it in, let's put our red flags in a separate location. Now in this case, it's actually gone in a different direction again. It's gone through and taken the 5 initial dot points and it's expanded those out with unusual clauses, red flags. It's effectively taken our summary in a bit of a different direction. That's okay. It still has got the content we need, but I think I actually want to go back to the initial draft and try something a little bit different. Let's go with our initial pass here. You can see I've gone back to draft 1 of 3, and we're going to simply just ask it to add those red flags in a totally new section. So an additional section that covers red flags and unusual clauses in the specific part of the contract that I am interested in. Once it's done that, we'll have not only our 5 dot point summary, but we'll also have a secondary section purely focused on the content that we're concerned about. Now that is looking a little clearer. Indemnity and termination, 2 clear areas with unusual changes and things that we need to be concerned about. All right, I can work with this. Next, let's see if we can maybe improve the language that we're seeing here. Let's ask if there's any specific places that we could use to maybe apply some language to clarify some of these red flags and unusual clauses. We could also continue to ask for additional document. I think we don't need to at this point. I'm confident Copilot will still return all of the information we need. And perfect. It has gone through and it's added. The term material breach should be further defined. To clarify, the supplier should negotiate specific language. That's good. It's done exactly what we asked. So let's add a new section again. We're going to compare the payment terms of the supplier agreement with standard industry practice. Let's see if we can get something that is a little bit more based on what everyone else is up to. Does this contract look normal for all intents and purposes? I want to ensure that it's highlighting any strange deviations in particular. For the most part, this looks pretty straightforward. No major deviations. There's just a little bit of inflexibility in a portion of the contract. Industry practices include provisions for early payment discounts, but it doesn't appear that that is part of this space here, so it could be an enhancement we could ask for. Now, we're going to quickly ask for a refactor of the document. And this is something that Copilot is usually able to do, but I want to show you something that might not work out of the box. I'm going to ask it to refactor all of the content we've now discovered. We've done a fact-finding mission, and I want to refactor it back into 5 key dot points. Now, I'm also going to ask it to attempt to do formatting on the document. Red flags and deviations are either highlighted in red or are in a red font. You will immediately see that that has not happened. We have not gotten the red font component. So, if Copilot ever does behave in a way that you're not expecting, iterate. Give it another go, see how you get used to it. Often it's better to split into multiple different queries to be able to do things like formatting than it is to try and do it all in one. Regardless, I'm happy with the outcome of the content. Hitting keep it takes away the blue highlight, and it means we are out of draft mode and ready to start iterating on the content that Copilot has helped summarize for us. Next up, we've been asked to do a bit of research for a legal brief, and I want to show you how you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot to ensure that you have document security even when you are doing web-based research. So here I am over in Copilot for Microsoft 365, and at the top of the screen, you'll note that there is 2 icons, one for work and one for web. This is important. When you go into your work protection, you are guaranteed to have that enterprise protection for documentation. Essentially, things that should stay internal will stay internal. You can also additionally turn off external web content in this mode, so you can actually research only from internal documentation. Extremely useful if that's your context. But we want a web-based exploration explicitly. Note you don't have the ability to turn off internal documentation here because we are looking externally. This is going to ensure that things that are classified stay internal, but you are still able to perform your web-based research to do what you need to. So in our case, we are taking the form of a paralegal at Tailspin Toys. I really like this particular prompt, and it's one I use in my classwork pretty frequently because it's comparing two different privacy acts in California. These are encompassing many similar things to what the General Data Protection Act in the EU is encompassing. And so it's quite a complex scenario where we need to ensure that we have a quick summary of how this is actually going to affect a business's ability to collect consumer data. So let's go through and see what the summarization looks like at first blush. Initially, this is going to be quite complex and quite verbose, and there's no way around that. This is a complex and lots of very detail-oriented piece of legislation with quite a few pieces of comparison that need to go into play for you to understand what the impact is going to be to the business. Immediately, we can see the sourcing. It has pulled from official government sources as a primary source, and it has even given us the ability to now export this summary out as a PDF or a Word document. I think we can add a bit more context and maybe refine what has come back though. First of all, we've asked for a comparison, but I want to actually know how this is going to impact our data retention policies and how this affects user rights specifically related to Tailspin. So let's look at just that portion, something that is specific based on an executive question that I was asked. It's going to return a similar sort of content back, but at the end, it will also add those explicit recommendations for Tailspin, the things they need to do to comply with both privacy acts there. Now, there's more that I think we can add in here, and there's actually one piece that I am explicitly interested in. What is the action plan to make this work? Making sure that you are compliant with these policies as quickly as possible is a real process. So ensuring that you have a step-by-step plan on what you're going to do to make sure this works, well, that's going to be really useful to have in hand and something that we can hand to someone as a starting point. So let's ask the question, what would be the action plan we need to take to ensure we are adherent to the legislation passing through? Here is a clear set of actions that we can take. Clear things we need to consider in terms of first and third party use and when we work with vendors. Now, of course, we could compile into a document at this stage, but I reckon I can do one better. The ability to then refactor this content into another format, in this case, a table, is going to be critical to being able to quickly summarize this information. One of Copilot's great features is the ability to recut information that is in a dot point or paragraph form into a tabular form, so being able to convert between different formats of display. I think that a side-by-side comparison table is going to give us the best view of what the actual differences between the legislation areas are. Here are the protection acts. It goes exactly who they apply to, where there are specific requirements. There is a lot of great information. I think at this point, I'm now ready to actually uptake on that response that it's been providing. Let's get a formatted document of all of the insights that we have together. So let's combine all the synthesized information together into a single document that we can then download. This can then be downloaded from the web version of Copilot, brought across into a OneDrive, SharePoint, something that Copilot for Microsoft 365 more broadly can interface with, and then we can use that to compare against internal documentation. All of this is being done with the public-facing web format version of Copilot. And so you have at your fingertips a huge amount of analysis when you need it. Now, we'll let this analysis process come through and the generation of this document, at which point we'll have a simple output we can follow. Just grab it, pop it in where it needs to go. Once this is in place, I want to have this as a baseline document, but it doesn't mean my research is over. Yes, all of the sections I want covered are covered, and we've even got that side-by-side comparison in there. We can simply click the document and download it. But there's actually one more question I really need to ask before we go any further. What are the actual next steps? Like, what do I actually need to do next? based on everything that we've gathered, based on all the information we've put together, can you just give me the basic form of a legal brief that is tailored to those who are not in a legal profession? How am I going to use the language here that I've gathered, that is legal jargon, and convert it across to plain and accessible language that everyone is going to be able to understand? Those that are non-legal stakeholders still need to understand their responsibilities. So, what are their practical actions? What are the things they need to achieve? What we have right now is the basis of a legal brief. Simple pieces of information of what action is required and why it matters to them that we can hand out to various department heads and people in the organization so they understand why this compliance format is coming into play. If you are looking for a way to summarize complex concepts and be able to put them out to those not in the legal profession, those who are not used to legal jargon, Copilot is a fantastic option for being able to translate between these two different areas, taking complex components and complex understanding and being able to distill it down to something that everyone will be able to consume and understand. Microsoft Loop makes teamwork easy by letting legal professionals create, share, and work on content together in real time. Now, when you combine that with Microsoft 365 Copilot, you have yourself an AI helper built for brainstorming and drafting working directly alongside you. You can write text, make tables, generate legal briefs, and answer questions fast to boost productivity. So let's head on in and use Copilot and Loop to research a new acceptable use policy for a workplace. So Loop is available over in your App Store in office.com. We'll just head straight into it now, and we're going to create a new workspace. You don't have to create a new workspace every time, but workspaces give the ability to share content with only certain people and also set a data sensitivity. So we're going to call this one, well, what it is. It's the acceptable use update policy. So we'll put our remote work guidelines positive in place. We can set our sensitivity labels, choose who we're sharing with. We can even start generating content straight from here. I always like to set an icon as well. Makes it easy to identify later. Get a little gavel in play, and we'll hit create. Now, from here, we can start creating stuff just from scratch. Start writing and start to put our content in. But I want to show you something. I've just put draft policy section in. We will be coming back and writing this, but take a look at what happens when I pop up Copilot. The first thing it actually says is, would you like to use a loop template? Now, the loop templates are a great set of individual things that you can simply pull out as, well, templates. Copilot is designed to engage and work with all of these templates. So if you're making a problem tracker, a wiki, something along those lines, they are a wonderful place to begin. But if you hit cancel, you'll note it's erased the page there. I actually want to build something totally from scratch. So let's go draft policy sections, and we're going to put in a prompt. I brought one already into the set up your page with Copilot prompt there. It's going to choose the most appropriate template if one is available, and if not, it'll make one on the fly. All right, we're updating our acceptable use policy, all about working from home. We need to make sure that we are focusing on remote work guidelines, and there's a device usage section we need to draft. Simple language was also a piece of this prompt. It's key that we use simple language here so everyone is able to understand clearly what the expectations are of them. Now, the first cut's going to take a moment, but it actually didn't take too long at all. Let's pull up the acceptable use policy it's generated and see what we've got so far. Okay, first of all, plain language is definitely key here. We've got the difference between business and personal devices. We've actually got a lot of the security expectations I usually would ask additionally, so we've kind of got our first pass here pretty good, including the use of a VPN. I think we need to dive a bit deeper on that though. Let's add a section into our prompt, and we're going to ask it to include a section on access control more broadly. So that's the use of a virtual private network connection, authentication, making sure that they know about access logs, that sort of stuff. And I've noted just related topics. I'm sure there are things I'm missing in my brainstorming here, but we're getting ourselves started, just doing that initial draft. So let's let Copilot do a lot of the heavy lifting at this moment. Okay, now it's already updated the page. Let's scroll down and see where that's come through. There's those basic security expectations again. And here's our access control section. VPN use, authentication, access logs. Beautiful. It's pulled in exactly what I was looking for. Do you think we could do some more? I think there's more we could do. Let's add a section here on security measures. This is looking at encryption and some of those other pieces that we saw earlier. Let's build them out into their own section. Incident reporting, what to do when something goes wrong. Let's get some spots in so we can fill them out and add in extra policies, pull in extra content, and start referencing already existing documentation in our environment. Okay, same deal. We're up to the personal devices, scroll past those security expectations, there's our VPN use, and here's our security measures. We've got some details on what is required in encryption. It's got some incident reporting components there. You can always just minimize Copilot if you can't see the thing you need. Now, last of all, I'm going to add a section to say, well, we need feedback. Legal, IT, and HR all are required to give feedback on this to make sure we're headed in the right direction. Let's just give them some blank sections to work with, somewhere that there's headings, and then they can start writing their content in. You'll note all of the stuff I've been doing, I've been adding this into the same prompt. You're actually under no obligation to do that. Copilot will always take into account the content that is on your loop page, so if you want to just erase this and rewrite it every time, you'll get the same outcome. I just like this and so I can keep track of what I've asked and what is the context and how I got here in the first place. All right, let's go through and finish this drafting process. What we've asked for is 3 blank sections to be added to the end of the page, focused on just giving legal, IT, and HR a space to be able to give feedback. I've hit keep it, we're now out of the draft, and now we have exactly that, a place for people to be able to write their feedback. Legal responses, they go there. What we have is the starting point. A set of individual factors, things we should be considering, and an initial cut. From here, we can start developing the proper policy, using all the right wording, and start to work with the departments to collaborate on creating a proper, usable, acceptable use policy. All right, now as my last demonstration, I want to show you how you can use Copilot to assist with some of your risk evaluations. We're going to head across to Excel and we're going to use a blank workbook to start creating some risk matrix evaluations. First of all, a blank notebook is never a great place to start. We always struggle to kind of fill in the gaps here. And Copilot has helpfully popped up a little Start with Copilot prompt. I want to show you how to do this though once you've been using Copilot for a while if it doesn't pop up immediately. Top right hand corner, there is a little Copilot button, and this opens the Copilot side pane. Immediately, it's got some suggested prompts, but I know what I need. I need to create a 2x2 risk matrix table comparing low and high likelihood to low and high impact. I also know that I need the likelihood/impact to be in cell A1 so I can fill in the gaps of what that actually is going to look like overall. The rest, it can stay blank. We're going to fill in the gaps with that and actually put in some practical components here. In reality, what am I actually doing? I'm creating a template that I can tell Copilot to reference. So when I need to do work elsewhere, I've got somewhere to work with. Interesting. Now, Copilot has said that it can't help with this. I know which piece that actually is. What I asked is for it to generate something on the fly, essentially put it into a page automatically. Copilot doesn't do that. It always relies on a human to hit the insert button. So it's gone through and generated the content and then asked me to actively put that content in. A simple insert means that we're now successful and the content's in place. Let's keep experimenting with this. I reckon we're going to run into this a couple of times with some of the questions we have, and I want to show you how to overcome them. So let's populate this matrix now. Essentially, I wanted to at least reference the matrix here and start to fill in the appropriate cells. We're going to go with just one thing here. So I've said I need to provide 4 legal risks. Let's go through and start populating them one by one. The first thing I'm going to ask for is data privacy violations. They're a high likelihood, high impact environment. Let's see if it can fit it into the matrix here. Now, it said it's encountered an issue. That's okay. I can actually tell you why this has happened. Copilot sometimes needs broader context of what's actually going on to understand the pattern you're trying to show. So instead of asking one at a time, I'm going to show you a trick here. Sometimes it makes more sense to ask for everything all at once, so Copilot is able to evaluate the pattern of how we're using the likelihood and impact together. Now that I've got multiple ones, additionally it said can't automatically insert, but we'll be able to add as a sheet. It's evaluating against the matrix I provided. We can see that's happening on the right-hand side. Likelihood impact, low and high, low impact. It's got some details there. It's even got exactly what cells we would need to insert it in if we wanted to do it manually. And it's got that Insert New Sheet button. Perfect. It's mapped directly into the matrix. It's used that first matrix I suggested as a template, and it built it out and filled it in perfectly. If things look a little odd, simply iterate and try again. Sometimes it's just about experimentation to find out the best way for Copilot to work, and so it understands exactly what it is you are asking. All right, let's continue down this path. Now, sheet currency means that we need to go back to sheet 1 if we want to reference this blank matrix. So let's do that. Next, we're going to actually try and ask for something a little bit new. I want to create a new table here, one with legal risk and mitigation strategy together, and then I'm going to ask it to include some specific risks as part of that. I then want it to add an additional mitigation strategy suggestion for each one of the risks that it presents. It's doing an initial analysis to understand the context of what we're asking, but luckily our table structure is not adherent to that, so it's going to ask for something totally new and something create new. But it understands that there's at least an impact analysis component going on as well. Now it's going to take a moment for this table to generate on the right-hand side. Step by step, it'll go through and grab that content, and when it's ready, we can insert across to a new sheet. At this point, we can name this whatever we need to. I'm going to call this maybe something like open legal questions for now. There's certainly some risks in play that I need to put in. But open legal questions, that's actually given me an idea. I think we should make a list of potential questions for legal review that we might need to think about. So let's do that. We're going to create a list titled Open Questions for Legal Review, 10 questions, open-ended legal questions, and we're looking for things like compliance gaps, ownership of risk, prompt strategic legal direction. There's this sort of stuff. So let's use this as a way of starting the collaboration with other departments, getting them thinking about the legal responsibilities they have. Let's get this put in play. I kept it pretty open because I want it to be open-ended. Let's see what Copilot comes up with. All right, there it is. Our questions are coming through now. So what are the current compliance gaps? I think that's a good place to start. How are legal risks currently being assessed? Identify and assess, that makes sense, yes. What processes are in place? Who's responsible? Where's the RACI matrix for this one? How are contracts reviewed? What measures are in place to protect IP, employee training? These are all core suggestions, things that I would expect a legal team to come back to me with as an initial starting point. If we can't answer these questions, we're not ready, and we need to make sure we have answers to them. Note, there is no Insert to New Sheet button there. This is something you will find time to time, usually when we ask for lists in Excel or we ask for tables when we're in Word. If we're working outside of the bounds of where Copilot for that specific product usually likes to work, sometimes we just need to do things a little manually. We can always copy the content in where we need to go, whichever one of these makes the most sense for the sheets, and you can easily use just a simple copy-paste function. Highlight the content and the text that you're interested in, pop it in, and then you can fit it to the formatting you need. All right, let's wrap things up now. You've seen how Microsoft 365 Copilot can become a powerful ally for legal professionals. It's designed for streamlining document review, accelerating research, and enhancing collaboration. Whether you were summarizing contracts, analyzing regulations, drafting policy updates, it helped us being able to, do all of that with greater speed and precision. The key to unlocking its full potential, it's clear, effective prompting. With the skills that you gain through practice, you'll be equipped to navigate complex legal tasks with confidence, accuracy, and efficiency. Let Copilot handle the heavy lifting so you can focus on what matters most, delivering sound, accurate legal guidance. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.